up. Get ready. It's going to be a very, very intense journey. Begin.
Hello, nerds! Welcome to episode 76 of Frameskip, a video game podcast. I am your host this week. My name is George. I am joined by Elijah, the ladies' man Steele.
Hi, hello.
Hi, hello, hi.
Hi, hey, hi.
Hey there, hi there.
Hello.
I am also joined by Coach, the Kyle Newman.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Doing well. I had some technical issues getting everyone here, but we're all here. Glad you made it.
Yes, very glad. I miss being on.
We miss having you on.
We miss having you. Some bookkeeping just from the start. Seth is still on his what's it called? His pilgrimage. He's going back to get that gas can he talked about in that last episode. Austin is doing Austin things tonight, so you're stuck with the three of us, but that's okay because we're here to talk about some fun things. First off, Elijah, what have you been playing?
So, I've really been playing one game, and that's Forza Horizon 5.
Okay, now before you even get started, you're playing this game earlier than the general public.
I was, because I got the premium edition. Because the game officially came out today.
Okay.
Oh, was it today?
Yes.
Oh.
And I got the premium upgrade, so I was playing it on Friday. And God, the game is so good. You would think at some point Playground Games is going to do something that takes a step back, even if it's trying something new or that. But no, they never take a step back. They're always at the top of their game. That studio is just incredible. I'm excited for Fable, and I don't even like Fable. But Forza Horizon 5 is basically just the next step in the Forza Horizon journey. The best way I can describe it, it's like what upgraded sports games should be like each year. Where you have the same players, except for the rookies that come in. Forza, you basically have the same cars with a few rookies that come in, a few newbies that enter, and it's just a change of scenery. But the scenery is so good. It's so well thought out. Some of the new things in this are, you have the danger signs and the speed traps and such. Well, there's a new one called Trailblazers. And to the best of my knowledge, so far, all of them I've encountered are off-road, and it's just, you drive through these two pillars, and then 3.7 miles that way is the next one. Go. Get there, however, the fastest possible way.
Okay.
And it's almost entirely off-road that I've found out, and it's just so fun. Just, these games are incredible, and this one is right up there with the best of them. Open world, Mexico is a great setting. The characters in it are whatever, but that's how Forza is. One of the cool things is in the story, it recognizes the other Horizon festivals. So one of them, in part of the story, they talk about this rich kid and all that, and this person liked beating the rich kid in street races and such. And then you find out the rich kid is a huge fan of that guy. And that's why he wanted to go to the Horizon Festival in England to begin with.
Okay.
Because he wanted to try and get better, so he could not so much compete, but race alongside this guy.
He just wanted to be his Robin.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it's I didn't expect it to really reference the other games like that, other than just, there are more Horizon festivals, and this is a new in Mexico. But there are little things like that about the past ones. It recognizes that you've started the previous Horizon festivals, and it's just so fun. The car handling is fantastic. The cars in it are...
Wait, what the hell was that, dude? Do it again. But do it in Chewbacca. Do Chewbacca. There we go.
Yeah, he speaks Cherokee. Is that what it's called in the official language? I think it's officially called Cherokee. I was reading some comics last night, not important.
But no, the game is just incredible. If you have any interest in a Forza Horizon game, the best part about it is it is very sim arcade. The driving itself is very sim, but the game plays out arcadey. So it's kind of a best of both worlds scenario. And it's just incredible.
Because I think, gun to my head, I would rather play the new Gran Turismo than the new Forza Motorsport. But I think I would rather play Forza Horizon than any of them, if that makes sense.
So you and I are the complete opposite.
Okay.
I would rather play Gran Turismo than Forza Horizon, but I would rather play Forza Motorsport than Gran Turismo.
Hot damn. Okay, that's a plot twist. I didn't see that coming.
I'm just not a big...
You're Elijah Mr. Trophy Steal, I just assumed.
Forza, like, Xbox does their racing game so much better than PlayStation. I enjoy Gran Turismo. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's bad. I enjoy it. But Forza Motorsport has always been just top-notch for me. But the only other thing I want to talk about isn't a game, but a show based on a game. And that's Act 1 of Arcane came out on Netflix. Arcane is a story based in League of Legends universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. Like, I don't know anything about League of Legends other than KDA. So I went into this with no background whatsoever. I understand the location, like I understand the story setting up. I understand all these differences. And it's just it's written so well. The characters are put out there so well. Like, you can really feel for the characters you need to feel for. You can really dislike the characters you need to dislike. But at the same time, like, understand, like, they do a good job of giving them such great personalities. And Act 2 hits this upcoming weekend. And I will stay up super late to watch all 3 episodes of Act 2 straight through.
I'll be honest, man. I pretend to know what you're talking about a lot because you, in general, reference a lot of like really obscure games. Like, you just have your finger to the pulse in a way that I do not. But I never want to like dunk on you. Like, I never want to be like, what the F is that, Elijah? No one cares. Like, I refuse to ever have that mentality because if it's something that makes you happy, I want to support that. And you talked about Arcane. And I was like, oh, totally, man. Yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds great. With no like real intention of checking it out. I was just trying to be supportive. And then I saw a trailer for it, and this show looks awesome. This show looks fantastic.
It's legitimately very, very good. Like, it has no right to be as good as it is, honestly.
Adding it to my queue. That's awesome.
But that's all I've been doing.
That's all you've got? All right, Coach, I know you and I have a game in common. We're going to get to that in a second. First up, I just want to talk really quickly about Riders Republic.
Yes, please.
I have been missing... There was something that just felt like a staple when I was a kid when it came to gaming. And, like, I didn't really know what I was doing when it came to games. So I'd be like, okay, this GoldenEye game is really fun. I've got a shooter. And then I'd be like, okay, I want a racer. And that's Cruisin' USA, Cruisin' World on N64. And then I was just like, oh man, I gotta own like a snowboarding or a skateboarding game. And then those games just went away. And then thankfully, Riders Republic to the rescue all these years later. Riders Republic is an open world game that features BMX downhill biking, features snowboarding, features squirrel suit floating through the sky, even jetpacking. This game is awesome. I think this game is going to suffer heavily because it's basically what I imagined Forza Horizon to be, except just featuring all these sort of disparate extreme sports. But it is such a fun open world game. It just has such a good attitude about itself. It's very good vibes playing this game where like you are just trying to slowly, incrementally improve your gear. It actually has a leveling system that doesn't feel... leveling system is disingenuous. I apologize. It has like an upgrade system that feels not dissimilar to The Division, where like you'll do a race and you'll level up and then you'll get a bike and it just says like 330 DP, which is just like a higher stat than the 258 bike you just went down the hill with. And so it really does feel like you're picking up like a new gun equivalent for this game. But it's just a giant open world. and it's got really good like Y2K energy. It's got really positive feelings about, hey, we're all here. We're all just trying to do the coolest, most impressive thing. And I've had such a good time playing this game. I think it's going to take a hit next week once I finally get my Xbox Series X and I can play Forza. But I am really, really enjoying my time with it. And I hope I stick with it. But I think I'm going to play a lot of Forza with you guys when I finally get my Series X. And then the other game I've been playing is a game Coach has also been playing. So I'm going to let Coach get things started. Coach, what have you been playing?
Okay, so this week we've been playing Call of Duty Vanguard, the new one, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was not even really, it wasn't really on my radar because honestly, I was going to pick up the new Pokemon. But when it came down to it, I saw your excitement for it a couple weeks ago, and then I kind of weighed my options. I'm like, I think I'll have more fun with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I picked it up and I played it. I'm about 2.5 hours in, I think, and I love it. Now, I did notice this, that there are, and surprisingly, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's some major frame skips that I've noticed.
We know those.
Right. And I believe when it happens, it's right before a cutscene, like the 10 to 15 seconds when you're playing right before a cutscene, like, when you're ending one section and going into another. I've noticed that there's a lot of slowdown, and then I'll see some skips every once in a while. So that was kind of shocking for me, being that I'm playing it on the Series X.
Okay. I've noticed a few frame skips also. I'm playing it on PlayStation 5. I didn't really notice it until today. Like, I had a friend over, my plumber, who's also my best friend from high school. He's helping me install a new water line in my kitchen, and he doesn't have a PlayStation 5, so I decided to show him how pretty games are, because I used to play a lot of Guitar Hero with this guy in high school, like a make your knuckles bleed amount of Guitar Hero. And so I had him over. Today was the first time I noticed some dips on the old frame count. But other than that, my experience has been pretty smooth with it. I've been playing the campaign. I beat the campaign last night on Veteran. That game is awesome. Like, it is such a fun shooter campaign. Coach, you said you're about 2.5 hours into it. We were talking before we recorded that you were at the first mission for Paulina Petrova.
Yes.
Laura Bailey's character. She is absolutely fantastic in this game. Call of Duty's reaching like this really mature type of storytelling. And when I say that, I don't mean in terms of content. I mean just in terms of presentation. Where, like, this doesn't feel like a bro shooter anymore. This doesn't feel like a Michael Bay video game. This feels like a really, really smart action experience that has me really, really impressed.
Well, I'm invested in these characters now.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the beginning, when you're on the train and you're moving around, you kind of don't know where it's really going, right? Well, what was that? Okay. and then once they start doing the character development, that's when to me, it went from a good, I'm having fun, to like, okay, now I'm really interested in this, and
yeah,
and I'm enjoying it. And today at work, that's all I could think about today.
Yeah, no, same for me. Yesterday, as I was like nearing the end of the campaign, I was just waiting for the day to end so I could just turn my PlayStation on. And it's great because the sun is going down at 4:00 now. So one positive about that is there's less glare on my TV as I try to play video games. But basically, like, the game starts with probably what I think is like the best first level in a Call of Duty game since the original Modern Warfare. Like, that original game had you like going on a boat, and like it was like sinking, and like water was like pouring in. It was just like a really good technical showpiece for the 360 back in the day. And this, I think, might be better just in terms of like a first level, and like it doesn't do the Call of Duty thing where it starts you off in boot camp. It just jumps straight to the action, and you're on a train as it's riding alongside another train, and you're trying to hijack that train to sneak into a Nazi base. And it is just such a fun start to a game. And then you're part of this special forces team, and then each mission of the campaign basically is like the origin story for each member of that team. And then the missions sort of have everyone's like funneling back together to be like a modern mission for them, like all together. And it's so incredibly fun. The multiplayer itself too is great. They do this thing where they change the pacing is like the big verbiage they use, where it's like sometimes you're playing a team deathmatch and like traditionally it always went to 75, and now sometimes you're on a bigger map where it's 12v12 and you're going to 200. Sometimes you're at 6v6 and you're going to 100. But they just change with like the actual speed of the game, and it's so incredibly fun.
Well,
cannot recommend it enough.
The I'm trying to remember his name, the black dude.
Arthur Kingsley.
Yes. I love his character, man.
Oh,
I love his mission, that you played, going up that bank or whatever. I mean, it was such a perfect level. The level design in that was just so amazing, Like I played through it twice just because I loved it, right? I enjoyed it. So
it feels like the original Call of Duty in a way, like the original like console Call of Duty that we got back on like PlayStation 2 and original Xbox. Like it feels almost like a war sim in a way, where I don't know. I think my favorite Call of Duty might be Modern Warfare 3, just from like where I was like in my life and the amount of time I was able to invest into it. But that game was incredibly arcadey, but compared especially to the original Call of Duty. And this one feels like an old school, like original Call of Duty. It's just, I cannot get over how good the campaign is.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, anything else, Coach?
No, that's it for me.
All right, that is what we have been playing. We try to do something special for every episode. This week, we are taking a look back. We are in November of 2021. It is November 9th as we record this. And so we wanted to celebrate 2011. We wanted to take a look back 10 years into the past to talk about what at the time seemed like the biggest year in gaming yet, and it very well could have been. So we're going to break it down. I made a list of the biggest game releases by month. And so I'm going to read these games out. And I want to talk about the games that stand out to you. I want to talk about trends that we noticed. And if anything sort of catches your eye, please interrupt me so we can talk about a game. First game I have written, January 11th, 2011, DC Universe Online. The only reason I mention this, one, the cinematics leading up to it were awesome. Two, it was one of the first times we ever got like a big MMO to appear on a home console. Started off with a subscription. It later became free to play. It was a big deal at the time. Now it's still a relatively big deal. No one talks about it, but it is still a very popular game. January 18th, Little Big Planet 2.
Well, wait, real quick. Going back to the DC. Was that the MOBA?
No.
That was not the MOBA. That was
Infinite Crisis.
Infinite Crisis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the comic book series Infinite Crisis. Just took the name. Not the MOBA, the MMO. January 18th, Little Big Planet 2. Sackboy came back, boy. And that's all I have to say about that. My roommate was absolutely obsessed with the first Little Big Planet. I spent hours on plants watching him create levels.
Okay,
let's see.
Have you guys played the new one? The new Sackboy?
Sackboy's Big Adventure?
Yeah.
So good.
Fantastic. Yeah, great game.
Is it worth buying? I mean, is it 60 or 70?
Probably cheaper now. I would assume it'd be somewhere like in the 40 to 50 range now.
Yeah.
It was 60 when I grabbed it. Great game though. It's just like a fun third-person platformer.
So fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Next big game, also January 18th, Mass Effect 2. This is here because it came to the PlayStation family of consoles, which we weren't expecting at the time. We thought it was still like a Microsoft exclusive, but it came to PlayStation 3, and it came to PlayStation 3 on the Mass Effect 3 engine, which was a very big deal at the time. So for a while, the best way to play Mass Effect 2 was on PlayStation 3, which is shocking in hindsight. Finally, January 25th, I think a game Elijah wants to talk about, Dead Space 2.
This game really, it had a super good story and finally fixed some of the controls that people didn't like from Dead Space 1, which makes, I think, Dead Space 2 like the definitive Dead Space game. We're just gonna not talk about 3, but when Dead Space 2 came out, it blew me away. And to this day, I still think it's a great game.
And it also has that thing with the eye.
Yeah, right at the beginning. So it's kind of like, let's get it done and you're gone now.
Let's rip this Band-Aid off.
Exactly.
Who needs to sleep? It's fine.
Worst part of the game is past. We're good.
Yeah. Moving on to February. February 8th, we had 3 games. We had Explodemon, which was a PSN 2D platformer. We had Stacking, which is actually a game we brought up, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, which was from Double Fine, where you're playing as like the Russian nesting dolls. And we also had a game series that we didn't know was going to be such a big deal at the time. We have You Don't Know Jack, which eventually evolved into the Jackbox series of games. Elijah, you're looking around all crazy.
Is that all you have for February?
No, that's all I have for February 8th.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I'm like, but George.
Oh my God.
There's more.
Yeah, one of your favorite games. Hyperdimension Neptunia came out February 15th. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds, and Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together came to PSP. Elijah, I feel like you want to talk about games. Maybe even Coach, you want to talk about some games.
Hyperdimension Neptunia, with it being, it's the first in the series, a long-running series that's still releasing new releases. What we hadn't really seen as much before is the whole thing is a giant metaphor for the gaming industry. And it was amazing when you realized that. And that was just something you didn't see too often.
Also, was that sneakily like the return of Sega to nerdier roots? Because it felt like it to me at the time.
No, because it wasn't Sega.
Hyperdimension Neptunia wasn't Sega?
Correct.
Oh, who is it? Atlas?
Idea Factory.
Oh man, I always thought that game was Sega because the commentary about it was just like being super passive aggressive about the console wars. So I always assumed it was a Sega game.
No, actually, one of the main characters is based on Sega.
Okay, okay.
You have the Nintendo character, the Xbox character, the PlayStation character, and then the Sega character. They're the 4 main characters of the game.
Okay. I misremembered that game then. I apologize. February 16th, one of my favorite games of the year came out. Hardcore Uprising.
I'm so happy you brought this up. This game is so good.
Coach, have you ever played Hardcore Uprising?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it is probably in all likelihood available on Series X. You need to download this game because it is a 2.5D Contra game. What's
the name of it?
Hardcore, CORPS Uprising. This game is fantastic.
Actually, I can confirm it's on Xbox One and Series X. It was one of the games with gold a couple months ago.
Okay, that's good to know. That game is incredible. That game is so hard.
So good.
But it is so much fun.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't think it was going to be brought up.
Oh God, of course. I couldn't make a list without that. And to round out February, on the 22nd, we got Bulletstorm and Killzone 3. Elijah, you have the platinum in Killzone 3, don't you?
I do.
You're out of your mind. You're you're crazy.
I played a lot of that game. That game was one of the main reasons I had originally gotten a PS3 for Killzone 2. That PS3 broke, and then I didn't touch a PS3 again for a while.
Sure.
Then Killzone 3 was coming out.
Once bitten, twice shy. I get it. Yeah.
Exactly. then Killzone 3 was coming out, and I'm like, I need a PlayStation 3 again. And that was what really got me to buy another PS3, which then I got hooked on getting trophies and playing PlayStation games. Killzone 3 is actually, like, the reason I play PlayStation now that I think about it.
All right. Can I make a confession to both of you guys? At this point in 2011, we're going into March, I hadn't played any of these games because I was still living in England and I didn't have my consoles with me. I had a PSP, which I couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi, and I couldn't connect to the PSN, and I had a DS. So I was just knees deep in Pokemon Platinum and knees deep in like Burnout, whatever the Burnout was on PSP. I think it was just Burnout PSP.
There were two
And
Burnout games. One was Burnout, and the other one was Burnout Legends.
okay, I was knee deep in Burnout Legends then. That was absolutely the one on my PSP Go. Coach, so far, has anything stuck out to you about 2011?
So far, no. Only
Okay.
because that's the year that I went to Afghanistan. So the beginning of the year, I'm training. We're getting ready. So it doesn't get. I don't start playing games again until the middle of the year. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
And just for context, was this your first tour?
Yes, this is my first
Yes, it
one.
was. Okay. All right, that pushes us into March. March 6th, Pokemon Black and White. A disgusting looking game that may or may not be the best in the series because it focused on story. Or it could be the worst in the series because it focused on story. It's dealer's choice. Also in March, on the 8th, we got two games. We got Dragon Age 2 and we got Major League Baseball 2K11. I just wanted to bring up 2K11 just because we live in a world right now where the only sim baseball game is MLB The Show, which has only recently gone multi-platform. But back in the day, you actually had 2K Baseball, which is just, I forgot until I was looking at a list of games. On March 11th, the Tohoku earthquake happened in Japan and the Pacific, which led to several crises that happened in Japan. And we will touch more on that in a little bit, I believe. But just for context of where we were in the year, it was a really big deal. I believe it was like the nuclear reactors at Fukushima were in danger of melting down. So just for context of where we were in the year, on March 15th, we got Homefront, which looked to be the Call of Duty killer. It was fine.
I love that game, knowing full well that it's fine. But I absolutely adore that game.
They spent a lot more time world building in that game than any Call of Duty really had, to a point, and with good reason, because it was like an alternate history. Like I think it was North Korea, right? North Korea or China who had like invaded the United States. Someone invaded the United States. It was basically
Red Dawn, the video.
It was Red Dawn. Yeah. Yeah. Really big deal. March 22nd, Crysis 2 came to consoles.
If I remember correctly, wasn't that the first Crysis to come to console?
That was the first Crysis to come to console. The original Crysis didn't come until much later, but Crysis 2 came. You guys, can I make a confession? Crysis 2 was the first game I ever played like online multiplayer in Maine.
Oh wow!
Because the internet was so bad in Maine. And I remember on like 2.5 megabyte down per second speed later that summer, I bought Crysis 2 because it looked so pretty. And that was the first game I ever did online team deathmatch in my childhood bedroom. It was a very big deal for me. Also on March 22nd, a personal favorite game of mine called Swarm came to PlayStation Network, which was basically a two-dimensional Pikmin game. Also very similar to Army Corps of Hell, which came to Vita for launch. In a very, very similar vein to that game. Also on the 22nd, guys, guess what time it was? It was the time of PlayStation Move. So we got PlayStation Move Heroes on PlayStation 3. Not that I miss the PlayStation Move, but I do miss the era of Sony making sort of gimmicky games. Oh, Elijah's holding up a beautiful Move wand. Hey, I recognize those. Those aren't PlayStation 3 Move Wands. That's your PSVR controller.
What's the difference?
Oh, God, yeah. Why didn't they update it? It's such a bad idea. Anyways, PlayStation Move Heroes, a game I hope to play soon on stream because someone got an Elgato and his name is El Giorgio. Moving on, March 27th, Coach, I think you got something to say. The 3DS launches in North America.
Yeah, and what an abysmal launch. I mean, there was just
thank
no
you.
games. None. And it wasn't
Steel Diver.
Yes.
Classic Steel Diver.
Ocarina of Time 3DS was a launch game, correct?
No, it was not.
It wasn't a launch game.
It was not. Nope.
Rough stuff.
Yes, it was very rough. There just wasn't anything. I want to say there was a Splinter Cell game.
Chaos Theory 3D, I believe.
Yes.
I don't think that was launched, though. I think that came out later. I think that was in the summer.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else, but it was
Super Street Fighter 4.
Abysmal.
Yep.
The only thing that, you could play your DS games on it, right? So
one thing that was really cool about it was the AR cards that came packed in the console.
Wasn't there a Pilot Wings game?
Yeah, there was Pilot Wings 3D.
Okay,
that game's actually super fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that game.
I grabbed it on eBay a year or two ago. I think like a year ago, like right before the pandemic, or right at the beginning of the pandemic, and I actually really enjoyed my time with that game. But you're right, not the great game. Ghost Recon Shadow War was a very, very fun tactics RPG from the launch of the 3DS that I enjoyed quite a bit. But guys, you know what? We talked about it earlier. It had to come back. PSP, Third Birthday, comes out March 29th. In the Parasite Eve series. That game's great. That game is fantastic.
I recently got Parasite Eve 1 and 2. So I want to play through them. I've had the Third Birthday sitting on my shelf waiting for me.
All right. Hey, man, you stream it. I am there. Moving on to April. April was such a pivotal month for the year of 2011, and you're going to know why in just a few seconds. April 19th is now known as Portal Combat Day. And so many games came out on that day. We got Mortal Kombat, like the reboot of Mortal Kombat, the start of the modern day era of Mortal Kombat, the return to form. I believe the game before that was Mortal Kombat versus the DC Universe, which was super fun, but not what people were looking for.
This is technically Mortal Kombat 9.
Yes, this was the return to form people were hoping for the series. We also got SOCOM 4, which is a supremely underrated game, and we're going to get into why in just a second. We also got Portal 2, which for all the praise it gets, probably also an underrated game. And Coach, we got a Wii game this day too. We got Conduit 2.
Yeah, I wasn't as much into the Wii. There's few games. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do the motion controls. I just couldn't. Gotcha. Yeah.
The Conduit series, I think, is very good. The first one is hard. I actually just got Conduit 2 on Wii the other day.
So I've never heard of it.
Oh, it is a first-person shooter set up with motion controls. The first game is incredibly fun, but like I said, super hard.
Sounds like a better version of Red Steel.
Red Steel 2 is perfect. Red Steel 1 is underwhelming. Red Steel 1 is not a great game. Red Steel 2 is just dripping with style.
You have me curious now because I enjoyed Red Steel. Like, knew it was bad, but like I enjoyed what it did. So I'm gonna have to pop in Red Steel 2.
Red Steel 2 was like a Tarantino futuristic, like a sci-fi samurai showdown game. It was so weird and so good. So April 19th was like a great day for video games. April 20th was not. April 20th, the PlayStation Network is hacked and is down for the next 23 days. Where were you? Where were you when the PlayStation Network went down, Elijah?
I recall at one point being at my friend's house, trying to sign in, and again, I'm like, nope, not fixed yet. I didn't like those days.
No. Coach, were you deployed in April of 2011?
No, but I only had a PS2 at that time. I didn't get my
Okay.
PS3 until like around August, September.
Okay. So this didn't affect you at all. It didn't really
No.
affect me because I was abroad. And in the UK, Xbox is so stupidly popular. Like, I don't know if it's just the UK or if it was... Because, like, I think on continental Europe, PlayStation is more popular. But, man, all my friends at my university in England, they all had 360s. And so they were unaffected as well.
Yeah, that's what I had as a 360.
Yeah, I still... Oh, man, I had my launch 360, like the white one, until a year and a half ago when my brother-in-law was using it while I was gone. And it finally red ringed on him, which is pretty good. I mean, like, I got that like 2006, 2007, maybe.
True.
And so it lasted until like 2019, 2020. That's pretty solid. All right, we are moving into May. We mentioned the Tohoku earthquake in Japan. One of the games that was affected by it on May 3rd, Motorstorm Apocalypse. I love this series. This is like such a... It's like one of the first series I think of when I think of PlayStation 3. It no longer exists. The developers no longer owned by PlayStation.
They went
were
on to
sold
make
off.
Onrush.
Yeah, a lot of the same developers. But Motorstorm Apocalypse was a arcadey racing game that was centered around the idea of natural disasters happening. And unfortunately, there was a level in Japan that took place during an earthquake. And so it seemed in poor taste to release this game so soon after the Tohoku earthquake, but that was the game that they made, so it was really hard to avoid it.
Yeah. It was supposed to come out in March. I remember that.
Yeah, and so it was delayed. Can't fault the developers for that. Not their fault. Who you can fault the developers for is Splash Damage, because they had a game on May 10th called Brink. You remember Brink? Brink was
I've
an
never played it,
online
know
only
the
like
stories.
team shooter where it seemed, if Brink came out today, I think it'd be super successful. It seems very Overwatch-y by comparison. Not quite hero shooter, but very much online tactics based. May 17th, LA Noire comes out. It was a 3-discer on Xbox 360, single discer on PlayStation 3, cementing that the PlayStation 3 was better than the 360. And then also on the 17th, Witcher 2 Assassin of Kings comes out on Windows. So just to give you some perspective on where, oh my God, Elijah, what's their name?
CD Projekt Red?
CD Projekt Red, thank you. CD Projekt Red had just put out the second Witcher game of this year. Look at them now. I didn't mean to kick them while they're down. I think eventually Cyberpunk will be a good game, but Witcher 3 is undeniably a great game.
I think great is an understatement for it. Like, that's just how good Witcher 3 is.
It like reinvented open world RPGs. It was almost as powerful as a game that would come out in November. Coach, anything I've mentioned stick out to you so far?
Not in May.
Next
month, yes.
Okay. All right. On June 7th, this was a game, Austin couldn't be here tonight, but he was so excited for Infamous 2, which came out on June 7th. I came on the podcast for the first time ever last June, and I think I was talking about Infamous 2. Or sorry, June of 2020, because I was trying to play all their games before Ghost of Tsushima came out. Infamous 2 is like an amazing, incredible game. I absolutely love it. That game totally holds up. June 7th through the 9th, we had E3. And that was where Sony talked about the PlayStation Vita to American audiences for the first time. I was back home from England. I was staying at my father's home. His father, my grandfather, had passed away. So I was by myself in my childhood home while he was in Colorado dealing with, just like cleaning up the house, getting everything in order and all that stuff. And so I remember very vividly like barbecuing chicken and then sitting down to watch E3 as it aired on Spike TV, because that was That was 2011, baby. Also, June 7th, Red Faction Armageddon. June 14th, a game I assume Elijah wants to talk about, Alice Madness Returns.
Yes. Alice Madness Returns. This was the first time that series had hit console. In fact, if you were to buy a brand new copy on PS3 or 360, it came with a code for a digital copy of the original American McGee's Alice. I love this game because as much as I always liked Alice in Wonderland, this was a super dark and twisted take on the series, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, buddy. On the 14th, Duke Nukem Forever after 10 years. It could have its own 10-year anniversary podcast. Duke Nukem Forever finally comes out. Also on the 14th, we got Outland, which is an underrated 2D hack and slash platformer from Housemarque. On June 27th, the Supreme Court declares video games as protected free speech, which is great because I believe it was Senator Lynn at the time was arguing against video games corrupting youth. Let's see. And the 28th, Beyond Good and Evil HD comes, which is a cult classic video game from the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube era, remastered for HD consoles. Coach, you said June. I feel like I let you down. I feel like I missed something you want to talk about from June.
Okay, so on the 19th, and this was Father's Day, so we were at Fort Hood getting ready to fly out. We flew out about 3 weeks after that, but I picked up Ocarina of Time 3D. It released on Father's Day. For some reason, that Sunday, it came out. And Ocarina of Time was really the first. I mean, I played and beat NES games, Super Nintendo games, right? But this was Ocarina of Time was the really first big game that I had ever beaten with like big 3D bosses, right? So to play not only in 3D, and I know 3D is the gimmick, but to play it in 3D is really awesome. Like it's not a gimmick. It feels so good playing it in 3D, but you know, it's not just a port. You know, they went under the hood and they cleaned it up. And to me, it's easily the definitive version to play. So, and yeah, there's like once you beat Phantom Ganon, the bosses open up so you could go back and play them without having to go through the dungeons and all that.
Yeah, they included the boss rush mode from the GameCube release, right?
Did that have the?
I think the GameCube did have like a Master's Quest and a boss rush mode.
I know it had Master's Quest, but I don't remember having a boss rush mode.
I might be talking out of my butt right now, and I apologize to our listeners because that's no way to address you.
And
I thought it did.
And that's when the GameCube started. The GameCube, I'm sorry. That's when the 3DS started its momentum.
I also just want to bring up quick a game that got missed in June. On June 21st, Shadows of the Damned released. And that game has such a personality to itself. It's a Suda 51 Grasshopper manufacturer game. And to this day, I still cannot recommend that game enough.
I'm sorry. I made a note. I was like, oh, I should include this one because I know Elijah really cares. I'm sorry. I messed up. Thank you. All right, moving on to July. July, I've only got a couple games, so you guys are going to have to help me out, okay? All right. The first big one I have is on July 11th, and that is Missplosion Man, which was such a big deal to Xbox Live Arcade back in the day. An incredibly fun series that I don't want to say couldn't get made today, not because it's like inappropriate, but couldn't get made today just because it's dumb. And it was so great at the time. But I feel like indie games are expected to have a higher level of polish today. Not that Missplosion Man didn't have it back in 2011, but it was such a prominent, smaller release that a lot of things were forgiven for that back in 2011. The next big game I've got is Bastion on the 20th. I believe that was the first game from that studio's name that escapes me right now.
Supergiant Games.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I just always think of Greg Kasavin reading GameSpot video reviews out loud. I'm like, oh yeah, Greg's game. I'm like, that's not what the studio's called.
That's the game that's in the indie game, the movie, right?
Yes. Or no,
Yeah.
no. That's Fez.
No, there's another one.
Oh,
I think it's Bastion. I think
there's a couple in indie game
Yeah.
movie.
there was there's three main ones. There was Fez's game, right? Or not Fez's game, but the guy that everyone hates.
Goldfish.
Yes. And then I think it was Bastion, and then it was Super Meat Ball was also in that. Super Meat Boy, sorry. Super Meat Boy.
I need to watch this indie game the movie because Supergiant Games is my all-time favorite indie studio. They have yet to steer me wrong, and it all started with Bastion and the incredible soundtrack to Bastion.
We
which
should
I think
do a
it's
watch
perfect.
party and do like a bonus episode of the
It's
show
on
for
Steam.
I'm all in.
All right, cool. The 26th, Catherine comes out.
Yeah, it did.
Was this another Elijah game?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Braid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was Braid. That's what it was. It wasn't Bastion.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, Catherine, we've talked about this on the podcast. I've actually recently started listening to the earliest episodes of the podcast and just kind of going through. And we talked about this game. And it is a very adult-themed game because it's dealing with a guy who's cheating on his girlfriend with another person named Catherine. And
Catherine with a C.
exactly. And how he's dealing with it, talking to his friends, stuff like that. The actual gameplay of it is a puzzle game where at night he's asleep and has to like maneuver these puzzles and get to the very top.
Yeah, he's like having night terrors, and it's
Yes.
it's like the gameplay is like reverse Qbert,
Yes.
where you're trying to ascend like this weird pseudo 3D cubic pyramid. It's so good. Like when I tell people I can't get into Persona, it's because I played Catherine first, and like that story is just so much more interesting to me. Like when that team plays with more adult themes, I just find that way more captivating than like them exploring really important emotions that teenagers are going through. Like I don't mean to like diminish what happens like in Persona 4, but Catherine was just like I was in like a failing relationship at the time when that game came out. I just remember like playing that game, and like I was not in the same situation that he was in, but it was also just like, oh yeah, my relationship is also falling apart. Here, let me see how this guy deals with it. It was like it was just a very right time, right place for me to play that game. God, that game is so good. That game is so freaking good. Moving on to August. On August 3rd, Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet hits Xbox Live Arcade, which I think is just a beautiful 3.5 hour long Metroidvania game that's just really stylistic. It's usually on sale on Xbox for like $4. I have it on my Xbox One, so I know it's available on modern consoles. This
What's
game
the
is
name of
super
it?
fun. Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. That game is super good and usually dirt cheap. An oddly important game comes out on August 4th. Temple Run hits iOS devices, which sort of set off a slew of competitors and copycats for the Endless Runner. I had an iPhone 4 at the time. I absolutely loved Temple Run. Temple Run I thought was fantastic. That was my like waiting for a drink at the bar game. That was my I can't fall asleep when I get home from the bar game. Just a great experience. Do you guys care about Temple Run at all? Were you playing mobile games at the time?
I was not. I didn't
No,
really have
I
anything
wasn't.
that could.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've never
man,
been into mobile games except for the little ones like Balls, Ballz.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Bro, that is a good one too.
Let's see.
It's a physics game.
Also from July, I'm checking like another list. Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions comes to PSP. From Dust hits Xbox Live Arcade. It's a big Ubisoft game at the time that looked really cool, where you're ostensibly playing God, helping early settlers, like back in like the prehistoric era, just like move. Also in August, on August 12th, the 3DS price drops from $249 to $169. I think this is actually what kills the Vita. Because the Vita was coming out at $249. If a gun is pointed to your head and you had to spend $249 and you could either get a 3DS or a Vita, I think you get a Vita 9 out of 10 times. I think when someone points a gun to your head and says you can either spend $250 on a Vita or $170 on a 3DS, I think that's when people start saying, well, I'd rather pocket the $80. I could get a 3DS and 2 games for the price of one Vita. But that is also when they announced the Ambassador program.
Yes.
Which it sucks. The Ambassador program sucks because there's so many Game Boy Advance games that are exclusively available through that pilot program. And you can't get them anywhere else. I think you can get them on the Wii U. But the fact that you can only get those games on your 3DS through buying a 3DS before it was like financially smart to buy a 3DS is like absolutely insane. God damn it, Nintendo.
And the thing is, to this day, if you were to get a new, well, they don't really sell new, but you can, like when I bought one of my a new 3DS, I was still able to transfer those games onto my new 3DS.
I was able to transfer from my launch 3DS onto a new 3DS XL.
But you know, there's something,
a 3DS XL. Sorry.
Right. There's something special about that launch 3DS. You know, it's, I don't know. I think that's the best version. Like just the case, the size and everything. That was the best that it was, because then it got a little bit, it's not that it's too big, but to just throw in your pocket and go, that was the perfect size.
Yeah, the new, or like the 3DS XL, like that was a back pocket console, whereas like the 3DS was still a front pocket console. Which color did you get for your launch 3DS?
It was like that dark brown. It was the dark colored one. I
got the teal, like the aqua.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Aqua teal one. I think there was that. There was also like a purple one.
Yes.
Purple one's sick. I wish I got the purple one.
Now, fun fact. You remember about 3-4 years ago at Christmas, like right now, Nintendo would announce those special edition new 2DS.
Yeah. That
one year, they announced the regular, not the XL, but the regular 2DS, or the regular new 3DS, right? I mean, this naming convention just blows. And and it went out of stock real quick, but I was able to, like about maybe 4 or 5 months later, go into a GameStop on Fort Bliss, and they had it. And I picked it up. Even though it was a little bit more expensive than the regular ones, I still picked it up. And to me, that is my favorite of all the DS families, except for my all-time favorite is the DS Lite, because you could still put the Game Boy Advance games in.
Oh, the DS Lite is absolutely gorgeous. I have like a white DS Lite that is one of my probably top 3 favorite consoles of all time. Oh
God.
All right. We're trucking along. We're almost halfway through the year.
We're over halfway through the year.
Well, I know, like, calendarly, yes, but not in terms of game releases. August 16th, Elijah, I'm curious if you know this game, El Shaddai Ascension of the Metatron.
I haven't played it, but I want to. I've heard very good things.
This was just a game I randomly bought at GameStop one day, and it is awesome. It is beautiful. It is so freaking hard. And I ended up selling my copy back to GameStop so I could like get my full money back. And then I ended up buying a copy for twice as much on eBay not that long ago. And man, this game is still so pretty. August 30th, we got the Baconing. If it seems like I'm reading random games, it's because I am. I have a point I'm going to make. Moving on to September. What a huge September.
Yes. Before we go to September quick, I just want to say, also on the 16th was No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise for the PS3. Okay, which was the first and technically Travis Strikes Again, the mini game based game, came out on PS4, but Heroes Paradise was the only mainline No More Heroes game to appear on a PlayStation console, and even more so, it was published by a different publisher than the mainline games, because 1 and 2 were published by Ubisoft, and Heroes Paradise was published by Konami.
That's a weird turn of events for it, but yeah. All right, moving on to September. What a big ass September we got. On September 6th, Dead Island. After
Yes.
an amazing trailer that airs at, I believe, the Spike Awards, video game awards on Spike, the December or January before, Dead Island finally comes out. It is underwhelming as hell. Fun, but man, not what it was promised in the trailer.
It ended up leaving a lasting legacy, because what it was, while it may not have been great, is what would go on to become Dying Light, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So Dead Island walked so Dying Light could run.
That's a wonderful way to put it. Absolutely. September 6th, also, Blood Rain Betrayal. This game is coming out to modern consoles soon. I believe I saw it on limited run.
I have my copy ordered.
I think I actually ordered a copy too. This game is rad. Blood Rain was like a 3D action, violent as hell game on Xbox and PlayStation 2. And then Blood Rain Betrayal comes out. I believe it's Way Forward.
Yep, it is.
And it's just a 2D Metroidvania. It's awesome. That game is also like borderline impossibly hard. I am so bad at that game. I enjoy playing it, but I did not get very far. Also, September 6th, Resistance 3. Elijah, is this the best Resistance game?
Hands down.
Because it was more of a survival horror game, right?
Yeah, yep.
Have you guys gone back and played the first one?
Yeah.
I have.
It's rough around the edges, man. But
yeah,
that's okay, because that's you have to, you have to grind your teeth at some point, I mean, like, you just don't jump in and make phenomenal games,
And like, that was, if I'm not mistaken, was that a launch or very close to launch PS3 game?
I think so. I think it was really. I have it, and I do want to go in and actually beat it. But I remember when I picked it up this last summer and put it in, and I was going through some of the early missions, and I'm like, whoa, this feels
like a PS2 game still.
Yes, and the difficulty is up there too.
Yeah, it is an incredibly hard game. And what's really weird too is like Resistance had like the first one had no multiplayer. The second one had like 64 player multiplayer, which was like unheard of at the time. And then Resistance 3 comes out. I think that one was like 12 to 16 player multiplayer. Like they kind of like pared it down and made it feel more like a Call of Duty, just in terms of like intimacy. But man, Resistance 2 multiplayer was so big and so chaotic and so much fun. Moving on, God of War Origins comes out on the 13th. That is the PlayStation 3 remaster of the PSP games. On the 14th, we get 2 games to hit PSN and Xbox Live. We get Radiant Silvergun, which is a shmup, and we get Renegade Ops, which is, I believe, made by Avalanche, like the people who made Just Cause, and it was them making like a twin stick shooter where you're playing as like a little tank vehicle. That game is super underrated. Let's see, September 19th, Kirby Mass Attack hits the Nintendo DS. Still putting out DS games after the 3DS launches. We also, on the 20th, hold on a second. We get Burnout Crash, Resident Evil 4 HD, Gears of War 3, and Persona 2 Innocent Sin PSP. Woof, what a day. Did you guys grab anything?
On that day, I definitely grabbed Resident Evil 4. Later down the road, Gears 3.
Yeah.
Because Gears. And Persona 2, I'll forever have a chip on my shoulder with that game.
Okay.
So for me,
this isn't even the end of September. I just had to take a break because there were so many games.
Eventually I picked up Resident Evil 4, and then when I got the Series X, I bought. If you bought the Gears of War, it's the remaster.
Oh yeah.
What did they call it?
It was. That's gonna. Hold on, I gotta look. It's gonna. It wasn't like
Gears Reloaded or something like that. What the hell?
Something like that.
Right. You get those games. You get 2, 3, and I think was Judgment part of that.
Yes. Yeah, you got Judgment as well.
And it was, what was it, like maybe 15 or 16, I think it was, when you, me, and Austin played through them.
Yeah.
We streamed them. Oh, such good times, man.
Very good time.
Even though the controlling is such a pain in the ass, man.
Gears of War Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, that's it. Gears of War Ultimate. So, such good times with that series.
All right, moving along further in September. God, what a big month. The 27th, we got Ico Shadow the Colossus collection. We got Splinter Cell Classic Trilogy collection releasing. Resident Evil Code Veronica X HD. One of my personal favorites.
What did that release on?
Code Veronica X HD. That was 360 and PS3. One of my personal favorites on the 27th, Rochard, which is a PSN Xbox Live Arcade game. It is a 2-dimensional platformer that plays a lot like Portal, where you have like a gravity gun type thing. That game's incredible. That game's great. And then I have X-Men Destiny, also on the 27th from Silicon Knights. Moving on to October.
Wait, before we do,
can
we buy that game, the Code Veronica X HD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
they also brought it out to current gen consoles as well.
Yeah, like I have the PS4 version of that game, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
October 4th, Dark Souls is unleashed on gaming. Do either of you care about Dark Souls?
Did you just ask if I care about Dark Souls?
Yeah, Elijah, like, I don't know if you've ever talked about this game before. So, I just want to give an open floor if anyone wants to talk about it.
So, basic history for me is I didn't like Dark Souls at first. I played the first Dark Souls, didn't like it. Played the second Dark Souls, didn't like it. Like, I tried them, I should say. But then Dark Souls 3 was coming out. A couple friends were super into it. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I enjoyed it. Then got into Bloodborne. I'm massively in love with that series now. I've played through all the Dark Souls games. This game literally spawned a genre in its own right. So this is another one of those games that, you know, like World of Warcraft, like Minecraft, it changed gaming just in general. And, you know, there's been a lot of discourse for some reason 10 years later about this game and difficulty. But this game really did set a new course for so many kinds of games. And it's just so good. It's so, well, the art is so incredible in this series. For anybody who just doesn't care about playing Dark Souls, just watch cinematics. Just look at pictures from these games. The art is amazing.
The art is so pretty, I wish I were better at these games so I could enjoy more of it.
That's fair, yeah.
Also on October 4th, Rage. Like one of the first games from id Software in such a long time. That comes to 360 and PS3. Spider-Man Edge of Time also comes out. Holy crap, is that game expensive now? Yeah. Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions are both creeping up there in price. Orcs Must Die, a tower defense game. Tower defense was so stupidly popular at the time. This was also the year of Anomaly Warzone, another tower defense game. But Orcs Must Die was a game where you were defending like a medieval-looking tower situation. You could set traps for orcs, and you could jump in, and it was also third-person combat, so that was like its shtick, its gimmick. Super fun. Ace Combat Assault Horizon. On the 14th, we got the iPhone 4S, improving mobile gaming, so you could play great things, like a game that comes out in December. On the 18th of October, Batman Arkham City. Is this the best one in the series?
Yes, it is. It is to me. But here's the thing, fun fact. I got the collector's edition for Christmas, and this is when I was out there. And I still have the little statue. And maybe just because where my head was at, and I explained this in my review. When I actually did a review of the Wii U version of this game. But when I played through it,
the armored edition,
yeah, I was kind of disappointed with it. I got it on PS3, and maybe because I just played Arkham Asylum to death. Like I knew every corner of that game, right? I could get all the trophies blindfolded, right? So it was just different, right? But then when I got home in 12 and I picked up my Wii U and I picked up the Armored Edition, then my whole view of this game totally changed. Then I played it on PC, which that's the definitive version to play, in my opinion. Now, I do have the next gen, or it was the Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah, the return to Arkham. Yeah.
Yes, I have those, and I haven't played them yet. But being that next year we're getting Gotham Knights, hopefully, I do want to go through and play the series again, and maybe do some cool stuff with it on our YouTube channel. But I do want to play Return to Arkham. But back to Arkham City. Yes, to me, it's the best story and the best game in the system, in the series.
I never beat it because it came out October 18th. It was in college. I came back. It was 2011, technically the start of my senior year, and I just had so much work to do. I remember buying it, playing the Catwoman levels, like the DLC.
Yep.
And then playing like maybe an hour and a half of that game, and then putting it down, being like, oh, I'll get to this after I finish my papers. And then just like literally never going back to the game.
Right. I would do yourself a favor and jump into it, especially with your Series X coming in, playing Return to Arkham, because I'm sure you can get it dirt cheap now.
Yeah, no, I've got it on PlayStation 4, so I might just download that to my 5 and just and play it there, because that would be a fun time to return to it. Also, the 18th, Payday the Heist and Rocksmith came out. Rocksmith, I'm only mentioning because like I've got like an older teacher who I met at my advertising program, and the dude loved Rocksmith. Like was playing it as of like 3 years ago. Was like really enjoying it, like as a way for him to like relearn bass and relearn guitar. So it was just cool to see like the evolution of Guitar Hero to actually incorporate like real instruments.
I said to George before the podcast, I had 2 games in October that kind of I wanted to talk about more for what they do for gaming than for like the actual games themselves. One was Dark Souls, but the other one is Rocksmith, because
Really?
that game taught me how to I was able to just plug a guitar into an amp and play Down with the Sickness because
That's
of that
awesome.
game.
That's
Because
so
that
cool.
game taught me how to play it. Because for those who have never played Rocksmith or that, it starts out by just showing you, for example, Smoke on the Water starts out with the da 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 da, and it may start out the song with just you playing the like da da and just playing like 1 out of every 5 notes. But then keep doing that, and you're doing that well. Get about 10-15 seconds in, and now you're playing 2 out of every 5 notes. Keep playing well, and it goes 3 out of every, and then you get to that 5 out of 5. But keep playing well, and it starts giving you the expanded of that note. You're not just playing like one of these strings that you're playing. You're going to put your fingers on 2 of the strings, and the song keeps advancing as you go, as you do well. And it taught me how to play guitar. Like, it wasn't just you can somewhat play. No, it actually taught you how to play guitar, which was amazing. And that was kind of the start of really showing what video games could do in a teaching space, more than just having fun playing games.
Yeah, suck it, nerds. Now games are for learning stuff.
A quick side note before we continue as well, also released earlier in October, was Forza Motorsport 4,
Okay,
which
yeah,
I
I did
think is
not
the
include that.
pinnacle of the Forza Motorsport series. That was the last one before the Xbox One came out. That one had what was Mount Fujimi or something like, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was this perfect like drift racing track setup. That game had so many cars. I think it was like close to 800 vehicles were in it. It was the pinnacle of the series because then it came on Xbox One, only had a small fraction of vehicles, small fraction of the tracks, and it never got back up to that height. Forza Motorsport 4 is still my all-time favorite racing game.
Check it out. Probably super cheap on consoles if it's still available, which I assume it would be. On the 24th, we got Kirby's Return to Dreamland. 2 Kirby games in 1 year. What a time to be alive. Kirby's Return to Dreamland is excellent. That came to Wii. Battlefield 3 also came out that weekend on the 25th. That was like the first time Battlefield 3, it didn't sell nearly as much as Call of Duty that year, but it was the first time Battlefield sold in like vaguely competitive numbers to Call of Duty. So that was sort of like the turning point where people started taking Battlefield seriously as a franchise. And I believe that was like the launch of Battlelog, which I remember it sold like 9 to 11 million copies. It was a pretty big deal at the time. Infamous Festival of Blood came out on the 25th, which was a standalone DLC for Infamous 2 involving vampires, and it came out just in time for Halloween, which was spooky and fun. November 1st, we got GoldenEye 007 Reloaded on the Wii, which was the first time we'd had a James Bond game sort of harken back to GoldenEye. The first time that name had come back since the N64 days. We had Lord of the Rings War in the North, which was an aggressively average hack and slash game with the Lord of the Rings license. We also had Sonic Generations. Probably the best Sonic game since Colors.
Yeah, probably.
Are Generations and Colors like the best Sonic games of the century? Maybe. Since Sonic Adventure. And then we also got the best Nathan Drake Uncharted game. We got Uncharted 3. Yeah. On the 8th, we got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, my personal favorite Call of Duty game because the story was so just bat crap crazy. We got the Metal Gear Solid HD collection.
Which is,
and then,
at the moment, not on storefronts right now.
Not on storefronts right now. We also got my game of the year on Friday, November 11th, releasing at midnight the Thursday before.
Lego Harry Potter. Oh.
Lego Harry Potter, everyone's favorite magic using game that month, that day, that year. Just kidding. It's Skyrim. I've told that story countless times. I'm not going to tell it again, but God, I love Skyrim. On the 13th, Coach, Super Mario 3D Land.
You know, that game, I love that game. And I still do. It's probably one of my favorite Mario games next to Super Mario RPG. But this game got me back into Mario, right? So, I mean, just the game, just how it looked in 3D mode. Holy cow. Like, they knocked it. That, to me, that was a 10 out of 10 game.
Yeah, I agree. I 110% agree. That game's fantastic.
And it was easy for me to like wake up in the morning before chow, play about 10 or 15 minutes, go on through my day, and then come home and or not come home, but go to the barracks and just play at night,
Yeah, not just one of the best handheld Marios, maybe one of the best Marios ever. Like, that game is great. I wish there was a way to bring it to Switch. I don't know if there is, because there were so many like hidden pockets of that game that revolved around like a 3D element. I don't know if that'll work on the Switch, but man, I wish it could. That game is perfect.
I just remember seeing Bowser and just my jaw dropping like, man, he looks so good.
Let's see. On the 15th of November, Assassin's Creed Revelations. Glad that game series changed. I was getting sick of those Assassin's Creed games. I know 4 is Elijah's favorite right?
Arr.
I prefer the new like RPG version of it where it's like Odyssey and Origins. I prefer
But
that
they're
series.
so long, man. Like you have to invest so much time into it.
Yeah,
That's the only
no,
thing, man.
that's fair. That's fair.
Like that's a game that I would struggle to play. But then again, I put so many hours in Spider-Man earlier this year, and a lot of hours just because I just had fun just being in this,
Just moving around.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
movement is so
So I
movement is so
guess
fluid
it's
in that
all
game.
about, are you having fun, right? Which is
Yeah.
what video games are.
It's true. It's why we're here.
Yep.
Which is why we're also going to talk about Halo Combat
Yes,
Evolved Anniversary.
baby.
We're celebrating the anniversary of 2011. In 2011, they were celebrating the anniversary of 2001. What a great game. That game, Halo is so incredibly important to me. But just the fact that, like, on the Xbox 360 controller, I think that was the only 360 game I bought that year. I was so invested in my PlayStation 3. But the fact that you could, like, press the select button and jump between original graphics
Amazing.
and updated graphics, like, instantaneously, like, that needs to be a feature on every single HD game ever. Like, it has to be.
Did Halo 2 have that, or did they just...
I think it did. You couldn't do the old, like, cinematics. Like, the way, I think in Halo Anniversary Edition, if you were in the original Halo when a cinematic started, you had to watch the old cinematics, and if you were in the new graphics, you had to watch, like, the new cinematic. But I think with Halo 2 on the Master Chief Collection, you could only watch new cinematics. Which sucks, because Return to Sender was so much better in the original. We'll talk about that later. Also on the 15th, Rayman Origins, which would eventually become one of my favorite Vita games. Saints Row the Third, which was probably the high point of that series. If anyone is keeping score, guess not a lot of Saints Row guys here. It started off as a GTA clone, and then Saints Row the Third was, and it became its own thing. It was all about hyper customization and personalization. Also on the 20th, Skyward Sword. Does anyone care about Skyward Sword?
Nope. I got it.
Yeah.
Never beat it. I mean, like I said, I just couldn't get into the motion controls.
Yeah, it plays better on the Switch, but still doesn't play great.
Yeah. I mean, I have it on the Switch too. I just don't know when I'll get to it. Like, there's just so many other games I want to play. I need to, but
Also for note, on the 15th, Rayman Origins came out on PS3, 360, and Wii, and that brought back the, like, classic Rayman style, and that game was incredible.
Hey, I brought it up. I said it was my favorite Vita game.
I
Or one of
didn't
my
hear
favorite
that.
Vita games. Sorry.
I was
Yeah.
looking at the list.
One of my favorite Vita games, Rayman Origins. Absolutely incredible game.
there was
December,
I remember there was that level. It was like a side scroller shoot 'em up space, or he's in a plane or something like that. Right?
Yeah, I think his ears are like helicopters or
Right.
whatever. He did that a lot. Yeah. No, that game was great on Vita. I never played on the consoles. On home consoles, but absolutely love it on that OLED screen, baby. December, I've got 4 games. On the first,
Sir,
oh shoot, what did I miss?
on November 22nd, Corpse Party came out for PSP.
Okay, what is a corpse party, Elijah?
Corpse Party is a series about students who do this pact to stay together because the one student is going to another school, and they end up getting sucked into another dimension to this elementary school that basically is from an urban legend where a killer came in, started killing people. The principal jumped off the roof because they were going to shut down the school. All this crazy stuff happened. And then all these kids are trying to get home while being hunted by these ghosts. You can be killed in so many weird, creepy, and gruesome ways. But also, like, it had a good story for what it was doing. And it managed to live on. And in fact, this is the one that just came out on PlayStation 4, Switch, and Xbox. I think Xbox. Last month.
Is a remake of this game?
Not so much a remake, but like a remaster of it.
Okay.
Because it keeps the original graphics, but like the hand-drawn like anime art is in HD now and stuff like that.
Gotcha. This was a PSP game originally?
Correct. PSP.
Awesome. All right. Super cool. I got 4 games for December and 2 events. Infinity Blade 2 comes to mobile devices on December 1st. Made by Chair. That game is awesome. That game is incredible. It was just like Dark Souls inspired art direction with really fast, responsive swipe controls. And it was just you trying to exploit weaknesses in opponents, as it was basically like a boss rush mode, as you were like navigating a castle, trying to take out increasingly more dangerous enemies. Incredibly fun. Such a great game. I haven't played any like the most recent Infinity Blade games. Infinity Blade is why Chair stopped making Shadow Complex, because Infinity Blade was just so popular. Mario Kart 7 hits 3DS. A completely solid but ultimately boring game. Would anyone agree? Did anyone spend time with Mario Kart 3DS?
I mean, it was good, but once 8 came out, like a few years later, then that was just,
that was the go-to.
Yeah.
My only history with Mario Kart 7 was I bought it specifically to enter a tournament at PAX. Like, I'd never played it before. So just I lost in the first round of the tournament, not shocking, but I was just that asshole in the back throwing blue shells all the time.
Was that in 2014, Elijah?
It might have been.
I think I remember you doing it. You were in some.
That might have been 2013, because in 2014 I did do a tournament at PAX and I won.
Oh, hey, that was the PAX I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed for the PlayStation Vita.
So once we get out of 2011, the 3DS picks up more steams, but it's got good titles right now. I mean, you got Ocarina of Time, you have 3D Land.
And I totally missed another one that Austin wanted included. It was Star Fox 3D.
Yes. Yeah. So.
And then also, one of my favorite games on the 8th comes out for, Fortune Street comes out for the Wii, which was like such a weird Japanese. It was like if Mario Party Monopoly had a baby, starring the Mario cast. That came out to Wii. But then on the 8th, Pushmo comes to 3DS as like the big like downloadable title. That game was incredibly fun. And it was actually kind of like Catherine-esque, where it was you sort of like dealing with pixelated art of like famous Nintendo characters, trying to ascend them in like the appropriate way. On the 10th, the Spike Video Game Awards happened, and this is where The Last of Us is revealed for the first time.
What did you think of the Video Game Awards back then?
I remember being less optimistic about them then than I am now. Like, when I tune in now, I expect like baby E3 or like E3's younger brother. Back then, I was just hoping for breadcrumbs.
Well, when was it when we, I guess it was, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when it was Samuel Jackson, and it was all about Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Big rock stars, which was fun, right? It was fun to watch.
VGAs are why I hate Joel McHale.
And then
take that back.
And then now it's just like, it's all about trailers and not so much awards, which I'm okay with, because it's just a fun night just to sit down and watch trailers of video games.
Yeah, and like it really does feel like a second big like video game conference. Back then, it felt like it was awards for the developers, but it felt like rewards for people who are watching. Whereas like now it feels like a part of the marketing, which like kind of bums me out. Where like it does feel so commercialized, but back then,
especially formal. It's so formal. It's like
just one of the things I don't like about the show now is so much of it is here's trailers for new stuff. Oh, and we'll just quick say this one, this one, this one, this, and now a new trailer. I'm like, whoa, wait, go back. This little developer won their first award, and you're just kind of saying, and they won this. All right, now play this trailer for this new game. It's like,
yeah, there's no time to celebrate
Yeah.
the actual like achievement of what happened. Where back then there actually like was.
Yeah, that's my biggest criticism with these newest shows.
I think if
Which is
Jeff
why our video
Keighley-
game awards are going to be the biggest event of the year.
Exactly.
So yeah, I just wish like if Jeff Keighley really wanted to make it better, he would bring in like fans and just like fly him in, and or he would fly to LA or wherever and just talk to, you know, a big group of gamers and just say, okay, let's try and make this better, right? Because if it's for the fans, then let the fans kind of like, you know, make it their own. But
Yeah.
that's either near or there.
Final event for the year, December 17th, the PS Vita releases in Japan, dead on arrival, thanks Nintendo. And that was it. That was 2011. Those are the biggest events. Thank you both for chiming in for things that I missed. I noticed some trends. This was the year that I thought downloadable games got great. You know, between Bastion, Insanely Twisted, Shadow Planet, Beyond Good and Evil HD, Outland. This is also the year of the HD collection. But you got Beyond Good and Evil HD. You got Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil Code Veronica X, the Metal Gear Solid collection, Splinter Cell collection, etc., God of War. This was also the last year I noticed that there were movie tie-in games for comic book movies. We had Thor, we had Captain America, we had Green Lantern, and then they just stopped coming out after this. But that was 2011, guys. I thought it was a fantastic year for games. Elijah, if you have a top 3 or a top 5, do you have anything? Do you have a list off the top of your head? Coach, same to you?
My top 3 would probably be Dark Souls, Dead Space 2, and probably Forza Motorsport 4.
I was going to say, you're not even including the best racing game of all time.
And then for me, easily Ocarina of Time and 3D Land, and of course, Arkham City.
For me, it would probably be Skyrim. Like, if I could only keep one game from this entire year, I think it would be Skyrim. But then besides that, 3D Land is borderline perfect. And Richard, screw it. I'm going with Richard. I love that game. It is a 2D platformer with gravity physics, and it's so much fun. All right, guys. That was 2011 as we remember it. Thank you so much for listening. You can send in questions to @frameskippod on Twitter. You can reach Elijah at Loco Lizardman on Twitter. You can also catch him streaming on Twitch at Loco Lizardman. You can reach Coach through his Twitter handle, which also happens to be @frameskippod on
No
Twitter.
resemblance.
No resemblance. They just
It'll
they
be
look
the you can tell when it's mine when it's either Rogue Squadron, Batman of anything, or I'll sign off with the tilde Coach.
Yeah. Or you'll be making fun of Jason Schreier. Who's to say? Who's to say who's who?
I didn't make fun of him. I just, I had
Pointed out some
it.
inconsistencies.
Austin wasn't too happy about that.
It's not poking fun if it's the truth.
Yeah. Austin, who just mentioned but is not here, you can reach him at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. Seth, who we miss very, very much, can be reached at Seth the 90s Kid. Please don't follow him, though. He doesn't like that.
Isn't he in the moon? Didn't he take isn't he taking a flight to space and he's been out there for a while?
Yeah, he's laying the groundwork. He's making sure Frameskip has a good seat at the cafeteria at the moon base. Doing good work up there for us. We're not going to do our best in franchise this episode because we ran a little long. But hey guys, get excited. Coach, you've got reviews coming up. You've got stuff coming to YouTube. You said you miss editing. Are you working on anything fun coming up?
Right now, no, but definitely for 2022, I do want to do something with the Arkham games. Um, kind of like a retrospective of each one, kind of, just kind of make it my own, and then get ready for Gotham Knights, because I don't know how that's gonna play. I don't know how it's gonna be, but I am trusting OWB Montreal. So
Coach will do stuff for the Arkham games like Batman, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. I'll do stuff for the Arkham games, which is just playing through all different versions of Call of Cthulhu.
So funny, aren't you, Elijah? Always got jokes.
It's what I do.
It's what he does. He's not even wearing a shirt. Of course, he's got jokes. He's so funny. Thank you so much for listening. You can reach me at purplebird616 on Twitter. I hope you like comic book stuff, because that's mostly what I talk about from that account. But guys, I'm excited. We've been brainstorming new things to do for the channel, new things to do for the pod, new ways to interact with people. If you're listening to this, especially if you've made it, what are we, an hour and a half into this episode, this deep cut into the way the world was a decade ago, please let us know what you like about this show. Please let us know what you dislike about this show. Please let us know what our strengths and weaknesses are according to you, the listener. We are always up for hearing criticism, and we would love to address to make a better show for you going forward. That's all I got, guys. Elijah, closing words. Coach, closing words.
You got me. Just, check me out on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening to it this weekend, I'm going to be playing all of the Final Fantasy 15 DLCs.
Ooh, starting with Ignis.
I'll probably start with Prompto, just because I love Prompto. He's my favorite.
All right, fair enough. I'll be watching that. My girlfriend's mother's in town. I'm gonna go see Eternals one night, but the night I'm not seeing Eternals, I will be watching your streams.
Hey.
Coach, final word from you.
be loving, be respectful, and have fun.
Words to live by. Final words from Austin are Breath of the Wild sucks. Go George, go Patriots. That sounds like Austin to me. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you soon.
Go Bulldogs.